Attention.
Region Review.
The Raging Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Raging Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? That's up.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies and gents, welcome into another edition of Rage and Review podcast. Whole crew's here tonight, or this afternoon. I'm so used to having these late games that saying tonight just seems natural, but for once we're doing an early afternoon post game. Unfortunately, it's not a happy post game because we got our asses kicked, boys. Josh, as you can, if you're watching the live stream on YouTube, you can tell Josh is sitting in a vehicle right now, heading back to what I'm guessing is the hotel out in Tallahassee. So going to get some special insight from him as he was at the game. Gerry is in as well. Got his tech problems worked out, as you know, we typically do before we start these things. But we'll kick it to Josh first. Josh, man, that was tough to watch on TV. I can imagine it was a lot worse in person. Yeah, tell us about your experience today.
Well, I'm going to be a sourpuss, so be prepared for that. But if we're talking strictly from a game day experience, Florida State is, you got to put it on your to-do list. It was cool. The pregame, they've got all the pageantry that like old-time college football is. When we entered into Gate H, and where we were walking in, the band just so happened to be running onto the field during, while the where the player area is when you walk in. They lined the sides of the concourse, and then the bands, tuba, saxophones, everything just started running onto the field. Really cool experience. If you like the band and the whole, the pageantry of college football. From that angle, obviously Renegade the horse and, throwing the spear on the 50-yard line and all of it. No Looney Tunes. Happy to report no Looney Tunes from Florida State. The game day experience was really cool, top notch. One of my favorites I've ever experienced. Really enjoyed it. Catherine really enjoyed it. We had a pretty nice contingent of Cajun fans. I can't really put a number on it because they were kind of spread out, but where we sat, it was kind of concentrated, and there was a good amount of people. So I was happy to see player parents make the trip. Old alumni that I haven't seen in a very long time make the trip. Some of our personal friends were out there, so that was nice. So those were the positives from a game day experience. Campus is really nice. It was easy to get to. Tailgating was fine. All good. Everything else, not much to say that went well.
Yeah, I was about to say, and then you get to the game part, man. Hard to watch, especially in that first quarter where we just couldn't stop them at all. No. Like there was nothing we could do to stop their offense. Our defense could just, and then offensively we come out and just look like a third grade team playing, LSU. I mean, it was hard to watch, man.
No, I've never been a FBS quarterback, starting quarterback, so I don't know what it feels like to go out and play in front of 65 to 70,000 people screaming for their team. I thought that Chandler looked a little bit shaken early. I thought he played a lot better in the second half, for what it's worth. Now, you can say that's against their 3 and 4 deep and a bunch of freshmen. You can make that argument, and that would be correct. But in the first half, we missed open receivers, we made bad reads, we missed blocks. Running backs on a couple of occasions missed chips. Florida State is elite defensively. Their front seven is as good as we thought it was. Probably better, honestly. But just too many misses. I was encouraged by the defense on the first drive. We forced them to the 3 third downs. Of course, we didn't convert on any of them. But you kind of felt good about the defense and their physicality. Florida State blew them off the ball. Florida State, when they came out and lined up against us, off their offense against our defense. Like, for example, you saw number 14, and of course I always forget his name, but when he lined up against Eric Garrer, I like to think that Eric Garrer is one of our, if not best defensive players, he's one of our most reliable defensive players. When they lined up man on man, there was 1.5 feet of difference in size. And not to mention Jordan Travis and all of his abilities and his athletic prowess and the way he throws the football. I mean, they're an intimidating team to look at. So from the jump, it was not very promising. And I know we'll get into more detail later, but just from that very initial impression, they are a good football team.
Yeah, and that's what worried me going in is that, again, we have a young offensive line that's been beat up, and then you have an injury. Carlos Rubio didn't play today, so that just added on to how difficult things were going to be. But I get that they lost some questionable games earlier in the season that you're like, oh, well, they lost to Jacksonville State last season. But when you look at what they've done in the last couple of games, I mean, I guess the cherry on top for us is that we got to score 17 points, which is more than Syracuse and Miami combined against them. Maybe that's a good point. But when you look at the physicality and the size and just the aggressiveness of that defense and offensively, I mean, they were just running it down our throats. I mean, not many teams are going to be able to compete against them right now. Gerry, what'd you see in the game early as we kind of kicked off on a bad note with just letting them run it down our throat? What'd you see?
Well, early on, I see that Mike Norvell's experiment is working. He's in his third year as coach. He's really built kind of the prototypical type of team that he wants. It's that same type of team he had in Memphis, which is what got him the job at Florida State. And it's all come to fruition, especially these last 2 or 3 weeks. When you go to Miami and you win against your arch rival at their place 45-3, and when you go play a Syracuse team that started out the season pretty hot, I believe they were in the top 10 at one point, and you beat them 38-3, that's very intimidating to have to face that at their house. And I think it all kind of came to fruition in those first few drives. We take pride in our front seven. They gashed us 3 or 4 straight drives. I mean, they just ran the ball down our throat. The big threat going in was Jordan Travis. Obviously, he has great feet. He's elusive. He also throws the ball well, but they ran it on us. And that was something that was very surprising to me. I thought they were going to mix it up a little bit more, but they didn't. They ran it down our throats, and it's just a compliment to their offensive line. It's a compliment to how fundamentally sound they were, because we take pride in our defense. I also thought offensively, not having Ben Woldridge, having Chandler Fields have to come in early on, you could definitely tell the offense sort of missed a little bit of a half step just because Chandler is coming off of a 5-week injury. So, it's just one of those games. I said coming in, go in there, play hard, try your best to cover the spread, see where the chips fall where they may, and get ready for Texas State. And that's kind of how it turned out. Now, I will give credit to our team in the second half, 49-3. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, this team would have lost 70-3. And this team didn't give up. In spite of the fact that Florida State had their third and fourth stringers in, our team still fought to the final whistle. And I got to tip my hat off to them. I tip my hat off to the effort. So hopefully scoring those 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter can kind of add a little bit of confidence, especially at the fact that we go to a team that we've pretty much owned next week in Texas State. And that third or fourth string at Florida State may be equivalent to the first or second string that we face at Texas State. So if we can move the ball in the second half like we did against Florida State, I feel pretty good going into San Marcos. I just hope this team can brush it off very fast and go in next week with a mindset of do or die. Next week determines whether or not the season ends. So just overall, it's kind of what I expected. Florida State's just a really, really good football team. Mike Norvell has that machine rolling in Tallahassee, but I like the fact that our guys didn't quit, and hopefully they can carry that second half momentum into San Marcos next week and get a win.
And on Nick, real quick on Jerry's point about the second half. In 2019, Billy Napier took an inexperienced but talented team into Alabama. We got totally dominated in the first half. We came out in the second half when we actually beat them in the second half. And yes, It was 2 and 3 deep, and it was very similar to this situation. The only thing was it was earlier in the year, different spot on the schedule. But there were some similarities and parallels. Now, look, I'm not about to sunshine pump, and we'll get into the negatives later or here in a minute. But we've got to sorry, my wife's not very good at driving. We got to be able to take the small wins. I want to say that Michael Jefferson had a game that I thought Gerald Broussard put it well. I was listening to the end of the broadcast. He said the tape that MJ put together today showed that he was an NFL receiver. John Stevens had a very, very good, I call it effective second half. He did some things that we've been waiting to see him do all year. Look at Draylon Washington put together one hell of a game, honestly. You take away that fumble, he was probably our MVP on offense. So I just want to make those points real quick before we move on. And, Jerry, it's a good point about the second half.
Yeah, and that was important to me too, Jerry. We needed to see something out of Chandler, and I think we saw it in the second half. I think the first half was just him getting adjusted, being back to QB1 in an FBS situation. Josh, before we go, Terry has requested to speak, and by the way, all of you on our Twitter space, if you'd like to speak, please request. We'll go ahead and give you guys the floor in a couple seconds. Also, if you want to call in, I'm going to throw up the call-in line for you guys watching on live stream, but I will not be able to take the call live, so please leave a message. I will go ahead and play that for the boys, and we'll comment on it. But let's go to the Twitter space. Terry Johnson, you're up. What's going on, man? What do you think of what you saw today?
Comment on it, but
Hey, what's up, guys? Y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir. Hear you, man.
Hey, hey, it was a tough day. It was a tough morning. I first of all, I want to say, like, for anybody, any Cajun fans, you can't put this loss on Chandler. I think that's very unfair for some people that are thinking that. I'll be honest, I watched the first quarter. He got 21-0, and I didn't think that just going into the game, I really didn't think much more was gonna happen. I knew Florida State was gonna be, good up front. I already saw that coming. I just at least wanted to see some fight, and I saw some fight in the second half. When I tuned in, right? So, like, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see us fight. But I mean, I think, like, we just need to look at as far as the quarterback situation, because I get it. Everybody's clamoring for Zion. Everybody wants Zion. Hey, I want Zion. Like, I want to see the guy play. But we at least got to give Chandler a chance to finish the season, be fair to him, and he didn't have a full offensive line. Now, what I will say is that, like, miss with Ben, I think a lot of us take Ben for granted. He is undoubted, he's without a doubt the leader of the team. I don't think anybody disputes that. He leads this team. He puts everybody on his back. He does a great job as far as, like, managing the drive, and he makes good decisions. He's big, he's strong, and I gotta say, I don't know if y'all remember on that it was 14-0. It was right before they weirdly gave us the first down. Then they wanted to measure. Like, y'all remember that?
Oh yeah, they measured it, and then, which I've never seen before in football, at any level, they buzz from the top to review. Like, usually the coach will challenge, but I've never seen them measure and then say, "Well, hold on, the booth wants to review this." I've never seen that. It was
the dumbest thing. But before that happened, right? It was third. It was like 3rd and 3. I saw Chandler try to run for the first down, and I get it. He's like the lone starting quarterback as of right now. Zion's behind him. I don't see him put his body on the line to get that first down. He looked like he was, like, scared to go through the hole. If Ben was out there, Ben would have lowered his shoulder and gone through the hole. Now, you got to take the good with the bad. You get the first down, you might get hurt. I understand that, but I don't like I think Josh said at the beginning, Chandler just looked scared out there. I mean, he hadn't played in like 5 games. I get it, but if Ben was out there, I want to think, like, Ben Wooldridge has that dog in him. He would have lowered his shoulder. He would have got the first down. Would we have won? I don't think we would have, but I think we would have at least extended more drives in the game. And of course, defense can't really do much when the offense can't stay on the field. But I will say this, guys, we didn't lose to Vanderbilt today.
Yes. That we did not do,
How about
man.
that? How about that?
We
Wait,
lost
so
to the number 23 team in the country. We did not lose to
what's
Vanderbilt, I'll
insane?
tell you that.
What's insane about that game, Terry? There's one of the touchdowns from Vanderbilt. Now we didn't make any blunders like this today, but on a punt return, Florida's return man calls a fair catch at the 5-yard line, muffs the return, and Vanderbilt recovers it in their end zone for a touchdown. I'm just like, oh my gosh, could you imagine if that would have been a snowball effect for us today if we did something like that? Yeah, man, yeah. Got a lot of work to do in Gainesville.
Yeah, and so I'll say this, man. Like last thing I would say is, I love Dez. I love this team. I wanted to see Hart, and in that second half, I saw Hart. Like you can't get mad when obviously the other team is more talented than you are. Can't get mad about that. Like I mean, I've gone out there and I've been skull drugged before by a team better than me, and I couldn't whimper at the fact that, oh man, we should have won. I mean, like you just got to admit that when you've been had. I mean, but I do need to see a little bit more out of the starting quarterback putting the team on his back and going for that first down. But like I said, we probably still wouldn't have ended up in a good spot anyway. But hey, we'll get Texas State back next week. I got faith in them.
I appreciate it, Terry. Thanks for chiming in. No, I agree with you, man. At the beginning of the game, Chandler looked rattled. He looked like he was scared. I mean, if you have that defense going up against you, I guess I'd be scared too. So that's not something to be ashamed about. But I think he recovered nicely, and I think we scored 17 points against them. That's more than double what the other teams have scored on them in the month of November. So that's something to look forward to. But again, our biggest game of the season is going to be next weekend at Texas State, and it's a must win if we want to keep this thing rolling. And I mean, Gerry, do you think did Chandler show you enough tonight to tell you that we're coming out against Texas State firing on all cylinders, or do you still kind of hesitate going into that game next weekend?
No, I think Chandler can get it done against Texas State. Look, we played a defense that had basically shut down the school across the basin. We played a defense that only gave up 6 points in the last 2 weeks combined against Syracuse and Miami on the road. I knew Chandler was going to have some trouble. I mean, again, it's his first game back since late September or early October. He's coming off an injury, and your first play is at Doak Campbell against the number 11 defense in the country. So you're going to get the jitters. You're going to mess up every once in a while. There were a lot of mistakes he made in the first half. I think one thing I'll give credit to Chandler too was you notice he calmed down a little bit in the second half. His decision-making was a little more crisp. He kind of slowed the game down a little bit. He made some good throws. He was actually able to elude the blitz a little bit better. Now, granted, Florida State had their second or third string in, but their second or third string at Florida State could start anywhere else too. So I thought he did a good job kind of calming himself down. And look, you don't score 2 touchdowns in the second half against them if you're not calm and if you don't get better. So no, going into Texas State, I'm fully confident Chandler's going to get it done. He gets a full week of practice this week to prepare now. So no, I feel fine. The main thing is I don't expect our defense to give up a 21-0 lead either in the first quarter to Texas State. When that happens, you also have you make it harder to run through that brick wall of a defense when you spot them 21, which we'll talk about in a little bit defensively. So I thought Chandler did a good job in the second half. I mean, I was very critical those first 2 quarters. I thought he missed some easy targets. He forced some throws. He wasn't supposed to. Didn't make the best reads. Maybe should have thrown that out of bounds once or twice instead of taking a sack. But now, if he plays like he did in the second half against Texas State, I feel really, really good. I think he'll be okay.
So let's talk about, before we move on, about defense. Josh, let's talk about defense. 45 rushing attempts for 251 yards in the air. I mean, again, they didn't have to throw the ball, but they had 189 yards in the air, 440 yards of total offense for Florida State. Is that more a testament? I mean, obviously, Florida State's really, really good. I'm assuming that's more of a testament to how good they are and not how poorly we played. But I'm just going to go back again and mention it again. They played against Syracuse, won 38-3. Syracuse is the 18th ranked total defense of the country. Miami, 42nd total defense, won 45-3. They hung 35 on Louisville, 38th in the country. I'm thinking it's 100% on Florida State being that damn good. But what do you think, Josh?
Well, I can tell you that outside of Zion Hill Green and maybe Sonny, nobody else was winning one-on-one. Nobody. When Jordan Quibido, your most reliable tackler, is being dragged when he's in a one-on-one head-up matchup with Benson, the running back, Quib was in position. He was there. And this is no knock on Quib. He was just getting dragged around. We needed 2 and 3 guys to bring down their runners. The offensive line opened gaping holes the entire game, but I know you said 440 in the game, but they probably had 300 or more in the first half. They might have had 200 plus in the first quarter. I mean, the first quarter was absolutely atrocious. And I'm not putting that on anybody in particular. We couldn't move the ball, and that's attributed to many, many things. But defensively, to stay on task defensively, we just weren't winning anywhere. Their offensive line dominated. Their quarterback is elusive. Even when we would flush him out, he was able to make plays. And even when he didn't throw accurate passes, his receivers were making catches. So you got to give a lot of the credit to Florida State. I think Terry nailed it when he said you can't blame any one particular guy or one particular position group, because at the end of the day we were better. They were better everywhere. That's just the bottom line. Even like Jerry said, into their 2 and 3, they were better. So we were getting beat. Now, second half, everything changes when you're up at half. What was it, 35-3? Everything changes. The game changes. The game flow changes. The way you approach the game changes. I think Chandler was able to settle in because he hit a couple of deep balls, softened up the middle of that defense where they had to respect the deep ball. That's something that Ben goes into the game, and the threat is there from the jump. I think as soon as they saw Chandler, they said, hey, you're going to have to beat us. You're going to have to beat us deep, or we're going to stop everything and push everybody up front. I thought that was very obvious early on. They were so fast out on the edges. And look, our guys really didn't make plays. I didn't think the offensive game plan was too bad. I didn't think it was vanilla or anything like that. Just name somebody who went out and made plays. Dre Washington is the only person that I can think of. Williams had a couple of nice carries. Chris Smith was basically he was a non-factor. Mike Jefferson, again, he was effective. Stevens in the second half, effective. But nobody went out and wowed you. Nobody went out and made plays. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off topic. Defense. We just got beat, point of attack, the entire game. Or when the game was in doubt, at least. Point of attack, assignments. I just didn't see a whole lot of winning. That's just the truth.
I didn't think we came in I don't know if we really came in with a really good game plan schematically. This is probably the first game, and look, credit Florida State's offense. They're a high-powered offense, but if you notice a lot of their like when Jordan Travis would throw or get a pass off, it seems like their receivers were on an island by themselves. And that's not something I'm used to seeing. Our secondary takes pride in press coverage, and even when we had 2 guys on their receivers, they were able to create separation against us, which is very odd for us because that doesn't happen often. So I don't know what the game plan was. I don't know what our defensive coaches saw in Florida State to protect for pass coverage, but it definitely didn't look too impressive to me today. And maybe it's because of Florida State being that good. I don't know, but it just looked odd for us, I think.
And just a reminder before we keep going, if you want to chime in, our number 337-761-6561. Again, I can't take your call live, but feel free to leave a voicemail. We'll play it. And then also, if you're in the Twitter space, I see Big Cheese is in here. If you guys want to chime in as well, request to speak, I will grant it. I'll kind of switch gears a little bit right now and talk about our program as a whole, because we felt, and I know I felt like over the past couple of years, we thought we had gone past the point of feeling like we were taking money games or being the easy win for Power 5, quote unquote, teams in the country. And then we go to Florida State and just get our butts whipped. And you kind of, I'm kind of conflicted because at one end I want to say, okay, here we go, we're falling back into that again. But on the other hand, Florida State it showed me over the past few weeks how good they are, and they've blown out, Power 5 teams. So I don't know necessarily. I mean, at the beginning of the game when we were playing so poorly, go down 21-0, look like we're going to get blown out 120-0. I felt like, oh no, here we go again. But I think, and I get they had their second string. We had some second string, third string, fourth string guys out later in the game. I get that. But I don't feel like we've regressed to a point where we're going to be somebody's body bag game next season. I feel like that Florida State is that good. We'll see next week against Florida, who just got, lost to Vandy. So I don't know, Josh, what do you think? I know you were kind of in the same boat as me earlier in today's game going, here we go again, body bag game. Do you think we've regressed as a program, or do you think this is a one-off, just happened, Florida State just happens to be that good this year?
It's a good question because it's hard to say. Florida State is smoking hot right now. Feels like they've really hit their stride back as a power program. And it felt like we just got a gut punch when we got the news about Ben on Tuesday. It felt like we were playing good football, and I made that point on the preview. But if you go in there without your leader, I mean, that changes everything, right? It's a road game. It's a late season non-con game. It's a little bit different on the schedule. I don't know, Nick. I think it's a good question. I like to use Mississippi State as a really good litmus test for this team. When we were on the up, right, when we were starting to come up under Billy, we went to Mississippi State and we got totally throttled by a good Mississippi State team, but they weren't great. They were good, not great. Now, they had that great defensive line, and half of those guys are in the NFL. That first time we played Mississippi State in Mississippi State, but they crushed us. The very next year, we went into the New Orleans Superdome, the Superdome, and we could have won the football game. And it felt like it was a clear line of demarcation from a program that was learning how to win and learning how to be successful to a program that felt like it should win games like that, or it should compete at least. And that was on the rise, right? And there's sometimes as fans where we catch ourselves trying to hold on to that, where we're hoping that we're not regressing at all, but certainly we don't want to go back to 6-6 bustle days. I know that's kind of a joke among fans, but it's hard not to sit in that stadium and watch the first 15 minutes of that game and not feel like, wow, we've fallen off of a cliff. It's hard not to watch that and not think that. And I'm just being honest. Again, they had superior athletes. I thought they had a superior game plan offensively, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to give a yes or a no. It's certainly concerning. But Florida State might be a whole lot better than we think. I think that they might be getting better as we speak at hitting their stride. Yet to be determined. Maybe Gerry has a little more of a cogent thought.
Well, I think, first of all, and we've said it all season long, I mean, this is pretty much the tale of our year. Des took over a team that had to replaced over 20 coaches. Then you have 8 or 9 guys going to the portal. You have a bunch of people that, basically, I mean, they're starting for other teams. I mean, we lost a lot of guys. So have we regressed as a program? I wouldn't say regressed in a way where expectations are down or the standards down, but I think as a whole, honestly, I think, we've regressed this year just because of the circumstances, not because our program's going down. The verdict is still out. Des can come back next year and go win 10 games, right? So I think I can't say we've regressed as a program yet. I think we have to give it another year or two to really find out. As far as Florida State, look, Florida State, they're 8-3 right now. 2 of their losses, one was by 6 to Clemson. The other one was by, I think, 2 to North Carolina State, and they were driving on that last drive into NC State territory on the road, and Jordan Travis threw up a prayer that he should have never thrown, and it got picked off instead of kicking a game-winning field goal. So they lost 2 games by a combined score of 8 points. They also beat LSU. So this team, and you've seen what they've done these last couple of weeks. This team is good. And with all of the circumstances that we've had to deal with this year, the adversities we've had to face, these close losses, just the coaching turnover, the roster turnover, and then you go play a team that even in their losses lost to the best of the best and beat some of the best of the best, it's ripe for what happened today. That's why when I went into the game, I said, let the chips fall where they may. You never know what's going to happen. But at the same time, I wasn't going to be too upset if we came up short. I think for me, I was more concerned about the effort, where we're going to put effort out there. In the first half, it didn't look like we put too much effort in there, but that's also a compliment to how good Florida State is. It was when in the second half, when I started to see the way we kept fighting and kept battling. Again, that makes me feel good going into next week. And back to your original question of regressing as a program, when you play like you did in the second half today, it goes to show you that we still have standards. We still have standards that go a long way. We still have standards to show that we're not going to quit on somebody. We still have standards to show that it doesn't matter who we face, we're going to play you to the final whistle in spite of the score. So again, we have a chance to still salvage this season, but you played a team right now in Florida State. To me, I know they're ranked number 20. I think they're a top 15 team, to be honest with you. I know the record that the ranking kind of is determined by some of their losses early on. But if you take the last 5 or 6 weeks, they're a top 15 team. And if they win next week against Florida, they may be that top 15 team. So we just ran into a buzzsaw today, I guess is the best way to describe it.
And I think you go back and you look, I mean, the football team last year, Florida State, 5-7, losing to Jacksonville State, getting crushed by Wake Forest, losing to Louisville. And you know, I mean, you look at that team and it's the same. It's like us. It's mostly the same guys. They lost some key players, but they came out and they look like a totally different program this year. So last year we were licking our chops, man. We were going, it's time to go. We're gonna get them. We're gonna take them on. We're gonna kick their ass in almost said Gainesville, but Tallahassee. And then this happened. So yeah, I mean, I didn't see it coming. This year, I thought we'd be in it a little bit more, but again, this week I didn't feel good about it.
Let me make another point real quick. Take our team in 2010. We go 3-9. We lose to Western Kentucky, a team that had just joined the FBS on a 28-game losing streak. Okay. We lost a bunch of games that we should not have lost that year, which would mark the end of Coach Bussel's tenure. The same exact team the next year goes 9-4, comes within one game of a conference championship, and finishes with a W in the New Orleans Bowl in epic fashion on national TV. I see similarities with Florida State there. Same team, different mindset, different coach. Now, granted, Mike Norvell lost to Jacksonville State, but what I'm saying is, though, is it just goes to show you he's getting his team here now. He's established his program, his players, his scheme, his expectations. It's taking them a little bit longer, but I see similarities there with from a year or two removed from losing to Jacksonville State. Even though it's technically the same roster, the mindset, the attitude, the expectations, and the standards are definitely different, and they've come to fruition. And that's what you're seeing now with the Noles.
And I think the point I was trying to make is that, we're in year one with Dez. I mean, we have the potential to be that good again next year, like we were the last 2 years. But we've got to give our staff time. First of all, we got to get a full staff. Second of all, we got to give them time, like Norvell did, to get his players and his system really entrenched into that program. I see Terry wants to speak. Terry, what's on your mind, man?
Yeah, about like what y'all saying about as far as the state of the program, what it is right now, what it used to be. Like for more context, right? Like look at App State, right? A peer program who hired within, who, Coach Clark, I'm a huge fan of Coach Clark. Like he's coaching his alma mater. He's living his dream. They ran into a snag this year and, they lost some games they shouldn't have lost. But also you look, he has 2 top 25 wins under his belt. He's not even done with his third year. And this is not their best year. So give Dez time. Also, look at BYU. Like, they're losing to Utah Tech right now, 6-0, a FCS school. And BYU was like a team a couple years ago. We were talking about, like, they're going to the Big 12. And, like, they're also like a potential New Year's Six team. And they also have an interior hire in Kalani Sitake, who also played at, BYU. who knows that area. So like when you look at other programs that have done what we've done, you see some failures, but you also see some success. And BYU has had years of success a lot with, Kalani Sitake, but this is his one bad year. And even their fans are like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Fire him. Like sometimes us fans, we're impatient. We need to give it time. Let's just take a breather. Because I feel like programs like BYU and App State got it right. Like they have their guy. Just give the guys time. So just give Dez another year and like relax.
Yeah, and Terry, I'm going to say it again. I said it a couple weeks ago. I think I felt like going into the season, you know what? We're gonna get this done. We lost a couple players, but I trust in Dez, and we still got the root of the team there. We got this, and I think in the back of my mind, I knew how much of a negative effect everything playing out would have. But I don't. Somebody posted, I don't know who it was, but somebody posted a picture of Jerry Baldwin and said, "Here we go again." No, this is nothing like the Jerry Baldwin days at all. Like negative 1,000. Like this is not. Our program has not regressed to a level of Jerry Baldwin. I'm sorry. We're taking a step back in year one of Dez when his entire program was basically decimated from a coaching and support standpoint. We got to give the guy time. We got to give the players our support. We got to get the players. Look, Zion Chris, did I want him to play today? 100%. But did I expect him to play, or did I actually want him to take the field today? Hell no. Because I feel like Zion is the future of our program at the quarterback position, but I don't want him getting injured in some, trash time against Florida State where we're getting blown out by 5 touchdowns. Let the kid have a chance next year or the following year. But we gotta take what we have currently, make the best of it, make a bowl game that starts obviously next week because we got to beat Texas State, and then look to the future. But we got to I'm with you, Terry. We got to give the man time, and don't be calling him Jerry Baldwin, for God's sakes. Jerry Baldwin won 3 games in 3 seasons, and then wanted to sue us for discrimination. Come on, man. You were just a terrible football coach that should have never been hired.
That's y'all boys at the Barstool account. Y'all's favorite people.
Terrible take. By the way, Josh, I was laughing. Jerry, I just want to say I was not laughing at your comments that you were making. I was just watching Josh lose his mind over Catherine's driving. That was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I could read his lips, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now, man? You're a terrible backseat driver.
No, I'm not a backseat driver. You don't know what I was just dealing with.
Excuse me.
She was about to tell me what you were dealing with. Oh man, live stream.
Better be good, man. She's gonna make you walk home.
Goodness, well, that's a
singing freaking 2 Chainz and driving in the other lane. All right.
Hey,
every
if
time
nobody's
I
around.
Every time I try to speak, I'm going over one of the reflectors.
It's just not.
It's like the Autobahn, man. Free for all in Florida. I mean, Florida is crazy. Just a reminder: anybody want to speak on our Twitter space, go ahead and request to speak. I'll add you to it. I see Kripa on there. Kripa, more than happy to take your take on today's game. Juno, you're on there as well. Would love to hear from you guys. Next week I'm looking at Texas State next week, and maybe this is me taking it for granted that we've beat Texas State. I mean, that we never lost to them in football. So maybe it's me feeling overconfident about going into San Marcos next week and kicking their butts. But then you look at the fact that we lost to freaking ULM, and I don't think we're a good enough football team to anticipate a win against Texas State next week. And you add on top of that, I mean, we are famous for teams breaking streaks against us. I mean, you think of Western Kentucky, you think of Coastal Carolina, and now we're going into Texas State, who has never beaten us. That scares me a little bit too, because that's a little extra motivation for them. Jerry, are you worried going into Texas State next week?
I'm not. Because I just feel like it's this game can determine your season, and really, if the guys really want it that badly, they're going to go out there and get it done. I mean, there's nothing that's beyond my control. It's beyond any of our control. The guys just have to go out there, have a good week of practice, and if they're hungry enough to win it, they'll take care of business. And look, Texas State, they're already at the point where their season's pretty much done. Next Saturday, in spite of wins or losses, next Saturday is their last game. So we have something to play for. They don't, other than pride. So for us, am I scared? No, because I think our guys are going to get it done. And you know what? If they don't get it done, then, it is what it is. But if they're hungry enough to do it, they will do it. So, that's beyond my control. And of course, I would love for them to get it done because I think this team deserves a bowl game. But it's up to them. That's up to them. They're the ones that will determine that fate.
I think we need it. I think we as a program need this win. We need to get it. And again, I don't know what the bowl picture looks like, so I don't know if 6-6 is good enough to get us in a bowl. I would assume we're going to get in, but the point is, I feel like it's crucial for us to win next week from a recruiting standpoint, from a morale standpoint, for players thinking about entering the portal standpoint. I think this is a bigger game than I anticipated going into the end of the season. Josh, what are your thoughts about going into Texas State next week?
If they were fighting for bowl berth, I would be terrified. And also, does anybody believe in being due? Because they're so due against us. They're not a scrub team. I mean, they beat App State, which I understand is not the App State victory of old, but they still beat a quality team. But no, I think, like Gerry said, their season's basically done. So what are they really playing for? I know it's some pride at this point, but I think we're more talented than they are at this point, and I really don't see them playing all that inspired football because what are they exactly playing for? I don't know. Maybe it's senior night for them. Maybe that matters. I don't know. Am I worried about it? No. Can we lose the game? Of course we can, but I don't expect to lose. I'm not particularly worried about the game. Not like I was a few years ago. Like there was a time a few years ago where I thought for sure, like the streak was over. But I don't think that this year. So no, I'm not worried.
Maybe it's just my CDS coming back. I don't know. It just
I have a touch of it. I have a touch of it, so I get it. I'm with you on that.
I mean, it's crossed my mind. Like it has crossed my mind after the game against Troy. Like, could we go to Texas State? Because the way after beating Georgia Southern, we kind of knew that our season was going to be determined in San Marcos. I mean, we all kind of knew going into Florida State, it would take a miracle to pull it off, but it all came true. And I'm not, the reason why I'm not as worried is that I think the way you salvage this season, the players have to be the ones to step up. They're the ones that have to salvage it. We as fans can talk about it. We can discuss it here on this platform. We can talk about it in the bars, at the restaurants, at our homes. But until the actual players go out and execute on the field, that's what salvages it, because it shows that they want to get it done. They want to win that game. They want to finish strong. And I know Coach Dez has alluded to that a few times. Like, look, we want to give the fans something to be proud of, and these guys want to finish strong. They're still hitting practice hard, even up till this week. So they're hungry. If they're hungry, the result, it's like if you study for a test, you study hard enough, the test is going to answer itself, because you're prepared. I think that's where we are. And one thing that was great today, if you want to talk about a big victory, no major injuries. No major injuries. I didn't see anybody. I'm Josh. I don't know if you saw something at the game. No major injuries. So we should, of course, the tragic thing with Ben. But outside of that, as far as who played today and who's going into next week, I mean, I would think our depth chart should look very similar.
So I think, if I remember correctly, and I have to go back and look in the Twitter account, but I think they did make mention that one of our linebackers was on the sideline in a sling. In the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, but I don't remember who it was. But I think that was the only injury that we had this game, right, Josh?
I think that's correct. Also, there was some shuffling on the offensive line. So I don't know if it was just I know that Hudson went to right guard. I don't know if there was an injury that we missed or if they were just trying some stuff out, but Dirty Dave did move over to right guard, and I don't know if Jackson went to center or if Jax Harrington went to center or if they pulled him or if he got hurt or what, but that did change in the game.
Yeah. Well, all I know is, again, next week is huge. We got to get that win. We got to get some momentum going into the offseason next year. So a win next week, a bowl win would be nice. I don't care who we go, where we go. You can send me to the Bahamas or Bahama Bowl or Independence Bowl or wherever bowl, and I'll take it at this point. I want to see some more football. It's crazy to believe Dude, doesn't it feel like yesterday we blinked and we were starting this season, and all of a sudden, like, now we're talking about the last game of the year? It just feels like it just went so fast this year. Is it just me?
No, now we're finding ways to not talk about sports we don't want to talk about. So what are we going to do for 2 months? It's like, how do we
We're
get
going to do
here?
my trivia show. We're going to have a Raging Cajun trivia. We're
Yes.
going to do that. We're going to preview next year's roster. We're going to talk about baseball.
Hey, by the way, speaking of that, I know this is a little bit off topic, but shout out to volleyball. They went down against Texas State yesterday. Played hard. Did win a set. Well, I think they won the second set. But Texas State is ridiculously good. So shout out to a good effort, good season, and maybe having a conversation with a representative from the team soon.
Man, that'll be fun. I think they're going to be crazy good next year. Next season is going to be fun to watch with the volleyball team.
They're on the up and up. They're on the up and up. The atmosphere at OK Long's been a lot more fun, and volleyball has actually been very exciting for us over the last few seasons. Coach Gray has them going in the right direction. No, to answer your question, Nick, football season's always like that. It's always at a sort of like you talk about week one, and then every week just kind of follows on top of the other. And before you know it, here we are less than a week away from Thanksgiving, and you start hearing the Christmas songs, and then bowl season. If there's anything that I think selfishly speaking, like I want to win next week because of the fact that it gives us more content for the next 2 weeks after that to talk about a bowl game. And I think I want to say if we go into a bowl game, it'll probably be like right before Christmas. So that's a good 2.5 to 3 weeks of material we have. So just for us, just for Rage and Review, go win on Saturday so we have something to talk about in the next 3 weeks.
That's what I'm talking. It's all about Rage and Review. Screw everything else.
Everything else, the standard of the program, whatever.
Do it for us. Kripa.
Do it for us.
Kripa, you're good to go. Before you speak though, I want to ask you, you're in Houston, right? Am I correct in saying that you're in the Houston, Texas area? Oh, Kripa, you got to unmute yourself, man.
You hear me now?
There you go. I hear you now, loud and clear.
Okay. How's the quality?
Sounds good, man.
Okay. No, I was from 2010 through 2020. No more than. We moved back in October of 2020 to
man.
New Orleans.
I'm disappointed because I moved to Houston, so I was going to invite you to come do the video pod one weekend, but
right.
Too bad.
We crossed paths.
Yeah. So what's on your mind, man?
So obviously I listen in post game. Just I like to put the AirPods in and just listen in. Any kind of extended coverage of UL football is good extended coverage, and I think you guys did a good job. So I just want to make that clear. We're driving back to Biloxi, stay tonight, and I got my wife with me. So I decided, I guess I'll chime in and just throw a few pointers because I was at the game, sat right in front of Josh and his wife and a few friends of mine. So I'll just make a few points and I'll hang up and just let y'all take it over from here. So point number one, I see my buddy Kevin I played ball with that's listening in, former tight end. We all remember him as making the famous catch against the University of Houston to go ahead and beat Houston with Kevin Cobb and company back in 2006. So a shout out to Kevin. Just want to let him know that, listen, all of us former players, we like to make one big road trip a year. Last year was Texas. This year was Florida State. So we like to have guys like him, Derek Burrell, and all the other guys just kind of be a part of that. I think that's a great tradition that we can carry forward going into the 23 season. It's a lot of fun. My wife and I and others, Scott Hayes and a lot of other guys, we had a great time on this road trip. So just something that we could definitely talk about in the off season. Point number two, I thought overall offensive line played very well. And listen, that's just from my perspective, from what I saw. I know if you were to go back and review the tape, maybe you see things a little bit differently. But I think overall offensive line play, it's not what I expected. I thought we overcame expectations, and I thought we did well in the trenches. Point number three, I really believe Chandler Fields was – I think the rust was evident. If you look at that first possession, and that was a killer, that first possession, because you get a nice run on first down, you go in 2nd and 3, and he takes a sack when he rolls out to his left, when all you got to do is just throw the ball away But then again, you set yourself up at 3rd and 10, and really the drive is just done at that point. And that was just a killer to start really to start the game off. And you can't just allow that in a game against in this kind of magnitude against Florida State, where you have to overcome those type of mistakes, and you cannot just set yourself up in those type of positions. It's just too tough it's too big of a hurdle to overcome. Point number 3 or 4, I've already lost count. I really believe we should have taken more shots down the field with Jordan Jefferson and John Stevens along the outside, and big targets as well as Peter LeBlanc. To me, I think that was our only chance, and we didn't do enough of that. I think the one time I really took a shot with Michael Jefferson. I'm sorry if I said Jordan Jefferson. Michael Jefferson. Yeah, the one shot we took with Michael Jefferson going towards the north end zone, where it set us up in the goal line situation where we came away with 3 points. He was able to come away with the completion. I think using those big targets was our best bet to have success in this game. I don't think we did enough of that, but overall, I thought we played well in the trenches with the offensive line play, and I think the point that was made between it was either Nick or Gerry with the injuries. We came away healthy going against Texas State, and the one way you can salvage this season is you get the big win and go 6-6, and I think this program could really use a bowl berth, to conclude the season. And I think that can go a long way with the fans. So, but overall, listen, I had a great time. I had a great experience. I really did. I was glad I made the trip. We're heading to Biloxi to stay tonight. But to Terry's point earlier, by giving Mike a chance, give him more time, I will add on to that. Just give him an opportunity to have a signing class and see what he could do in the offseason, because he was able to get a lot of big commits early on. I know we've had a few mishaps with a few decommitments, but I think overall it's still going to be a big signing class, and let's see what he can do going forward in the years to come. And I'm excited about the program. And with that, I'll leave it back to you guys, and I'll just listen in. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, man. Gerry, what's on your mind?
Kripa, I had a question for you.
Go ahead.
Never mind. Oh, okay. You're headed to Biloxi. Where are you staying?
We're staying at Hotel Legends.
All right. I was thinking like the Hard Rock, the Beau Rivage, maybe do some gambling or something. I don't know. I like Biloxi.
We looked at the Beau Rivage, but we decided, we have a vehicle, we have access to our own vehicle, so let's pinch our pennies a little bit, and we'll just travel to the big casinos. We could route our way in that direction as soon as we kind of just gather ourselves a little bit. So it really wasn't worth us spending $300 for a hotel at which we were going to arrive like at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So, that's the way we looked at it.
Totally understandable, man. Well, look, thank you for calling in, and safe travels to you, buddy.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Chris.
Kripa. It's funny, but before you go, Josh, I just want to say I'm waiting here expecting for him to say something like this awesome comment about the game, and he's like, "Hey, bro, where you staying in Biloxi?"
Hey, man, dude, I love me some Biloxi, man. I can't help it.
Gerry, you're the only person that loves Biloxi. But no, here's the thing. I actually agree with everything Chris just said. Number one, the experience was awesome, kind of like we started the show with. Number two, I thought, all things considered, the offensive line played fine. And we kind of touched on that earlier, but I think that they played just fine, all things considered, especially against probably the first. I mean, that's the best front seven we've seen, 3 years. They were better than Texas, that's for sure. More athletic. And I think that I think the intention was to take a few shots early. We underthrew a couple of balls, one to Johnny Lumpkin, one to, I think it was Peter LeBlanc. Don't quote me on that. But I think in the second half, he just he aired it out a little bit, and our guys were able to run under it, and Mike Jefferson just made plays. They left him one-on-one, and Florida State is known for playing that press coverage. We took advantage of it a little bit more in the second half. Chandler made better throws. That's the way I see it, at least. I think he made a better deep throws. And John Stevens caught a few, or at least one, and Mike caught a few. So I think he's 100% right on all that. And it was good to see Kripa. I hadn't seen him in a while. The fan turnout, it was cool. And Kevin, of course, he made a mention of Kevin. I see Kevin all the time now see him at Legend, see him at the game. He's one of our best listeners. So love that Kevin's in the space. Kevin's always awesome to see in person and hang out and talk football with. So shout out to Kripa, shout out to Kevin.
KB's a good guy, man. I have to say, Josh, you were talking about the fan interaction. How about the Florida State fans? Were they pretty hospitable?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, as far as like P5 true road games, I can't tell you that we've come across a better fan base. They were great. Catherine goes to the restroom. She's gone for 20 minutes. She comes back and she says, these girls from Florida State were telling me that my hair is beautiful and they wanted to braid my hair. I said, first of all, y'all are weird. How did that even occur? But anyway, she said that they had a conversation for, however long, and they hung out essentially, strangers from Florida State. Everybody that I saw was very kind, polite. The concession experience, cheaper and much faster than Cajun Field. And you're talking about 65 to 70,000 people, just saying. So that was great. They had great merchandise on the inside if you're a Florida State fan. I really have nothing bad to say. Their tailgate lineup was great, the way they had it all laid out. Campus was real clean. It was nice. It was newer in College Town. Like Perry mentioned to you guys, we should check out College Town. That was nice. A little bit newer, similar to Perkins Row. We kind of talked about that. Some cool places to hang out and eat, sports bars, restaurants, all that stuff. It was great, man. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the experience in Tallahassee.
And pardon my ignorance, but I didn't know that Florida A&M was right next to Florida State. I didn't realize they were literally lined up right against each other. Their stadium is 5 minutes away from Doak Campbell. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was. We didn't really run into any A&M fans, Florida A&M fans, and I don't know if they're off today or if they're in another town or city playing their game, but it wasn't an overwhelming crowd. We didn't even see the university, so didn't really have much of a experience with that. But yeah, it's literally right there. It's not like a Southern LSU situation where, it's literally across town. They're on top of each other, but we didn't go on that side.
Yeah, Chris mentioned, I think on Twitter earlier in the day about Florida State playing our fight song in pregame or something like that, and that gave me memories back of Nebraska. I don't remember why I was with the team for Nebraska, but I remember Scott Prather being on the bus. I was on the team bus, and you go to Nebraska, and of course we got our butt whipped because we were not great at that time, but we were on the team bus. And everybody, first of all of Nebraska is super nice. All of their fans were super nice. The worst thing somebody did to us as we're on the team bus pulling into the stadium was going. And that was the most trash talk we had, was a thumbs down from a Nebraska fan in the team bus rolling into the stadium. So I guess this kind of, when he made that tweet about them playing the pregame UL fight song, and Nebraska does that too, it kind of gave me memories back in the Nebraska days.
Tennessee does that.
It was weird. It caught me off guard because their fans or their band was on the field, and I started hearing the Cajuns fight song, and it started looking around is that us? And it's actually Catherine who said their band is playing our fight song. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
but the only amount of heckling that we saw was there was just one guy 8 stories up on it was almost like a dorm, but a student living area. He was on the balcony, had a shirt off, saying "Whoa," that was it.
Yeah, that's kind of when you're able to go to other places, especially Power 5 schools. One thing you always wonder is are the fans going to look down on you, or are they going to treat you well? And most of my experience has always been that way. When we went to Tennessee. Like I mentioned, their band played our fight song, and their fans were very hospitable as well and were very welcoming. That was when I was a student manager back in 2007. Of course, Dez was the quarterback, but it's funny because you see all of these games on TV, Doak Campbell, we've seen him on national television, and then you get to experience it firsthand. And it makes sense, besides their winning traditions, of why these broadcast networks like to televise those games, not just because of the quality of their team, but just that welcoming atmosphere of their fan base. I'm sure those broadcasters go and they always talk about, well, they treated me to this, or they invited me to this tailgate and this and that. And so as Cajun fans, that's one thing I always enjoy when we play a Power 5 school, is to experience that ourselves and see it ourselves. And I got to experience that as a student manager when we went to South Carolina as well as Tennessee.
Yeah, and I'll just say I had every intention before I realized that we had an 11 o'clock game, every single intention of going to the Texas A&M game today and wearing App State gear. Swear to God, I was going to do it. And if you would, I don't know, Josh, I know you haven't seen it. Jerry, I don't know if you kind of caught glimpses of that game.
Oh,
they probably had 12,000 fans in that stadium.
No, I retweet. Go on our Rage and Review Twitter, and somebody did a panorama of the crowd right at the opening of the second half, the kickoff of the second half. There were less people. I guarantee you there were less people in that stadium than our game against Troy.
Wow.
I kid you not. And if you go on Rage and Review's Twitter, it'll say, if anybody's concerned about our attendance, we can always beat Texas A&M.
Yeah, I would have totally. I got a whole App State shirt in my closet ready for today. Unfortunately, didn't get to troll the Aggies. They troll themselves though with their play lately. But going back to what Chris said, look, Chandler got better as the game went on. He had, like you mentioned, Josh, he had two wide open receivers. He had a receiver and a blocker. He could have ran for 50 yards and just totally missed that pass. Again, we had
it was Nick. That was the epitome of that game.
I know.
You got two wide open receivers. Obviously, something went haywire there, but the only place you can throw it to miss both receivers, he found it.
Yeah,
and that was like the low point, I think. But it's like you had to try to throw it between the guys. You know what I mean? So yeah. It was one of those days.
And then he followed that back up by having a wide open receiver at the goal line, and then throws it to the back of the end zone in double coverage. And I'm like, what? I was screaming. My poor dog hid from.
Are you talking about the Aaron Rodgers play?
Yes.
Oh my! He walks into the end zone, man.
Yeah, in the flat. But again, first half jitters. I allude that to the fact that he was just trying to get adjusted. He looked a little nervous those first few drives. There were some places he could have thrown the ball out of bounds, took a sack instead. Yeah, look, he's going to look at that on film tomorrow and probably want to pull his hair out. I'm sure, again, he gets a full week of practice this week. I don't expect that type of first half performance in San Marcos. And also, too, again, they're not we have to really implode to allow Texas State to go 21 skunk on us in the first quarter. I don't see it happening. But our offensive line, to Kripa's point, don't y'all wish our offensive line would have played like that the first half of the season with what they've done now?
Hell, against Southern Miss.
I think that they've grown up a lot since then, though. So I'm not gonna do that. I think that they've improved, and they needed those failures to get to where they are now, I think. But to talking about Chandler, I'm not worried about Chandler. Look, he missed some guys, don't get me wrong, but 0 picks. 0 picks is important to me. The other thing is that we can win with Chandler at quarterback. I mean, everybody forgets it. I told this to Jerry Wednesday, maybe.
Uh-oh. Josh got that Florida internet going.
They got boomer internet in Florida now.
Oh, no.
Oh, there you go. You're
there
back,
you
man.
are.
You're back.
All right?
Oh.
Okay. Well, the point is that he was playing fine. He got yanked. God damn. All right, Nick, you take it. I don't know what's going on with this.
No, I know the point you're trying to make. And look, that wasn't a bash at Chandler. I'm just the point I was trying to make with my comments about him missing open receivers is that he didn't do that in the second half. He got better as the game went on. He settled down. He settled into the role. And that gives me confidence going into Texas State. Look, I expected, I don't want to say I ever expect a loss, but I just felt like this matchup was not good at all coming into this game. I had no confidence. And obviously it played out as I thought, unfortunately, but like Kripa said, like you said, our lines played better. They played well. I think we got beat because we were undersized at the linebacker spot. And I mean, most linebackers are undersized when you're compared to 6'6" tight ends and wide receivers. So we just got bullied at the point of attack when they were hitting our players, but I don't know, man. Everything scares me this season. I am confident we're going to go into San Marcos next week. In fact, I may make the trip because it's only a couple of hours from here, but it still scares me because it scares me. And I guess CDS is settling in. Terry, you did it to me, man. I forgot about CDS until you mentioned it the other day.
Hey, man, I'm sorry. Like, it's a disease that's rubbed off on me ever since we played Florida my sophomore year. I was like, that's when it happened. That's when I fully got CDS. Sorry.
Oh, man, that was tough. I remember I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Baton Rouge, of all places. And I actually had Purple and Gold fans texting me going, why did y'all lose? We were pulling for you. And I was like, bullshit, y'all weren't pulling for us. You never pull for us, but whatever, man. Yeah, that was a heartbreaker, but you know, things happen. Josh, one of our buddies is asking, are you staying in Florida? Joshua, are you staying in Florida tonight? What are your plans?
If you can hear me, I am. I'm going to be in Pensacola a little bit later.
John Karam, he is going to be in Pensacola. So John, Super John, the former, world famous DJ, world famous in Lafayette, is now, I think, running a leasing company out in Destin or somewhere around there. So
he's in Navarre Beach.
So he might give you a free place to stay. We'll see. I don't know.
he's Josh. He'll be like 15, 20 minutes down the road from you, man.
There you go, Navarre Beach. He confirmed it. So you might be staying for free on the beach tonight. We'll see what he can do for you.
Yeah, we hung out with John at the last home game. It was a good time. Good to see John, as always.
Good man. It's always good seeing John.
That's right. All right, final thoughts from you guys. I know it's we usually go a little bit longer, but it is early afternoon, which is weird. I know we got things we got to do. I know Catherine's got some more bad driving to do this afternoon. Gerry, your thoughts, final thoughts for today's game. Looking forward to next week.
You know, in the first half, it was CDS at its finest. You know, the whole world's rotten. Everything's going to what. But in the second half, the team didn't quit. They didn't give up. They played hard. And again, I feel confident going into next week by the way we finished. Obviously, we came up short on the scoreboard. You're playing one of the hottest teams in America right now. I appreciate the effort. I think there are some things we do need to clean up going into Texas State, but I think they're easily fixable. If this team wants to go to a bowl game, they will earn their spot next week. Like you said, Nick, it's huge for this program to keep momentum going and finish on a winning note. I want to finish this season 7-6. 7-6 isn't sexy per se, but 7-6 is a winning season. And that'll continue the streak of a non-losing season dating back to 2017, 2018. So have a good week of practice, celebrate Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much turkey. Get the job done against Texas State. Let's go bowling. Overall, Josh, safe travels, my friend. We'll see you when you get back. And looking forward to discussing the upcoming matchup against Texas State later this week.
Josh still giving directions on how to drive on the damn highway. Josh, final thoughts before we take on Texas State next week.
Get back behind the wheel. I'll be safe. I'll be safe as soon as I get back behind the wheel. But final thoughts. I hate losing. I hate losing like that. I think we're going to beat Texas State. We got a full week of preparation without, any question. Unless there's an injury, obviously, but we know who's going to be the starting quarterback. We know game plan. We know everything. So there's no reason why we can't go to San Marcos and get our 6-6 and go try to get into a bowl game. So not much to say about this game. We got our ass beat. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
I'm with you. I mean, we could talk about whether or not we play them early in the season, late in the season. I think they're just that good this season. Appreciate you boys as always. It wasn't fun during the game, but post-game, as always, is fun. Thanks to all the listeners who chimed in. Terry, Kripa, everyone else listening in. I appreciate you all. Watching on all the streams, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. I thought I dropped connection there for a while. Until next week, boys, have a good one. Go Cajuns.